Sevona, launched in 1890. At her launching, she was actually named the Emily P. Weed from 1890 to 1897. Then she was renamed the Sevona from 1897 to 1905. Her owner was James McBriar, and then eventually Donald Sutherland McDonald, who was the second owner. He was also her captain. The Sevona was a lake freighter. She had a tonnage of 728 tons, a length of 300 feet, although she was later extended to 373 feet, a beam of 41 feet, a depth of 21 feet. She could hold a cargo capacity of 3,166 tons. And an interesting note here, the Sevona was the first ship to contain the first electric searchlight on America's inland lakes. On September 1st, 1905, the Sevona left Alwez, Wisconsin, if I'm saying that right, bound for Erie, Pennsylvania, with a cargo of iron ore and a crew of 20 men and 4 women. Late that night, an unexpected storm hit the area, and by midnight, the wind had reached a gale force strength. At around 6 a.m. on September 2nd, the Sevona ran aground on a shoal and actually broke in half. There was no vessel in the area to aid the Sevona, so the crew members on the stern section of the ship boarded the lifeboats. The crew members on the bow section, separated from the lifeboats, were actually forced to construct a raft out of hatch covers and doors. All the crew members on the makeshift raft, however, later lost their lives in the storm. 3 other vessels, including the schooner barge Pretoria, were lost in that storm. I was actually able to find a recollection of one of the survivors from the Sevona, a Miss Spencer's story of the wreck, as she wrote here. I will quote this recollection she has. So, quoting, "It makes me shudder to talk or think about the terrible experience through which we passed. At about 3 o'clock in the morning, Captain McDonald knocked at our door and told us that he was going to seek shelter, and for us to secure all breakable stuff in a place of safety, as when the boat put about she would be tossed about badly. It was only a short time before the captain came to our stateroom again and told us to dress. This we did, and a little later 2 sailors came and accompanied us through at the end of the boat. We were instructed to put on life preservers, and we did. No one seemed to be specially frightened, but at 5:45 came the terrible crash, which broke the vessel in 2. We got into the lifeboat at that time, but the captain and the men could not come aft owing to the break. He hailed us through the megaphone, 'Hang on as long as you can,' and so we did. But the sea was pounding so hard that we finally got out of the small boat and into the large vessel again, all congregating in the dining room, which was still intact. The big boat was pounding and tossing. Now a piece of the deck would go, then a portion of the dining room, in which we were quartered. During all this time, the men forward could not get to us. Finally, at 11 o'clock, everything seemed to be breaking at once, and by order of the chief engineer, we took to the small boat again. One by one, we piled into the boat, leaving 6 men behind us. I never heard such a heart-rending cry as what came from those 6. 'For God's sake, don't leave us,' they cried out. So 2 of the men who were in our boat got out and helped the 6 men get the port boat over to the starboard side so they could launch it. These men then left in their boat, and our men came back to our boat and we put off. It was a terrible fight to keep the small boat afloat, and to the skill of the second engineer, Adam Fidden, we certainly owe our lives. He is an expert schooler and kept our boat right when oars on the side were practically useless. We knew we were in danger, but we obeyed his orders implicitly, and he finally landed us safe and sound. When the tug Curie returned from Sand Island Monday afternoon with the 6 men who were in boat number 2, it was also learned that the bodies of Captain McDonald and Nels Severson, wheelsman, had been found on the beach at Sand Island. Justice Davis was instructed to go there and hold an inquest. Upon their return to the island, 2 more bodies had been found. Lewis Darwin, first mate, and the other one could not be identified. The bodies were brought to Bayfield and taken in charge by undertaker sets and prepared for shipment. The body of Captain McDonald was sent to his home Tuesday, and 2 more of the bodies were shipped to Buffalo Wednesday. Harry Magna, a sailor on the steamer W.H. Mack, arrived in the city from Duluth Tuesday evening and identified his brother, Otto Willett, the last one of the bodies that washed ashore from the steamer Sevona. He took the remains of his brother to Cleveland Wednesday. A search has been made for the 3 remaining bodies, but none of them have ever been found yet. The bodies of the second mate and 2 watchmen are still missing as well. The survivors of the Sevona were sent to their respective homes Wednesday evening after being in Bayfield since Monday. Their expenses were all paid by the owners of the boat and was valued at $250,000 and insured for $160,000. She was a total loss. The bodies of the remaining victims were all eventually recovered, lying just below the surface. Man, what an interesting story, especially being able to find a recollection of one of the survivors, a woman, Miss Spencer, and her story. Just, wow, being stranded on the 2 pieces of the boat and then having the different crew members trying to save themselves and get the women on the other second lifeboat. And then I can't even believe trying to brave that storm out on Lake Superior. Just incredible that there were any survivors to begin with. But what a heartbreaking story that, these men lost their lives. From what I can see and what I've gathered from this, it doesn't sound like there was anything nefarious going about with this ship. I mean, it doesn't sound like she was overloaded. And as you well know, these types of storms can definitely whip up very quickly on the Great Lakes. This last Veterans Day weekend, I was up north in Traverse City with my family, and I kid you not, we were out one day out by the peninsula on one of the lakes there, and it was calm, quiet, barely any wind. We came back out the next day, and the winds had picked up to what felt like 60-mile-an-hour winds out there with white caps at the same beach, and the waves were just so intense. The wind was incessant, and it just goes to prove how quickly these types of storms, especially in the November gales or December, they can just wrap up that quickly. So, but yeah, tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. If you can find any more information about it or something I might not have covered here, I'd love to hear your comments about it. So, but thank you again for joining me on this episode of Songs of the Great Lakes, a very good one. And I look forward to the next episode with you guys. However, that will be it. So God bless you guys. I hope you're having a good morning, evening, night, whatever. And I will see you again next time on the next episode.